Welcome, friends. Today I'm going to tell you a story of love lost and found, of secrets and second chances. Enjoy the story. Emma Pearson lay in her bed, her body wasted away by years of illness. She clutched a faded photograph of a handsome young man, his eyes full of promises he never kept. A tear slid down her pale cheek. "Oh, Ethan," she whispered. "If only you knew about our little girl. If only I could see you one last time." Her words dissolved into a fit of coughing. Outside her bedroom window, a lone dahlia swayed in the gentle summer breeze, as if nodding in solemn agreement. The shrill ring of his phone shattered the pre-dawn stillness of Ethan Reeves' bedroom. He groaned and fumbled for the device, squinting at the caller ID. Anna, his ex-girlfriend. What could she possibly want at this ungodly hour? "Hello?" he grumbled. "Ethan, it's me. I'm sorry to call so early, but I have some news I thought you should hear from me directly." Ethan sat up, suddenly wide awake. "What is it? Are you okay?" "I'm fine. Better than fine, actually. William and we're getting married this weekend, and I'm calling to invite you to the wedding." The phone nearly slipped from Ethan's hand. His best friend and his ex-girlfriend getting married? The very idea was like a punch to the gut. Anger and betrayal surged through his veins. "Wow, I don't know what to say," he managed through gritted teeth. "Congratulations, I guess. I know this must be a shock, but you're important to both of us, Ethan. It would mean so much if you could be there." Important to them? What a joke. They had a twisted way of showing it. "I'll think about it," Ethan said coolly. "Listen, I have to go. Bye, Anna." He hung up before she could respond and flung the phone across the room. It hit the wall with an unsatisfying thud. Ethan sank back against his pillows, his mind reeling. How could they do this to him? William knew how much Ethan had loved Anna, how devastated he'd been when she ended things a year ago. Some best friend. Well, to hell with them both. He'd go to their stupid wedding all right, and he'd give them a piece of his mind while he was at it. The sun had barely crested the horizon as Ethan sped down the highway, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. A few hours later, he eased his car into the parking lot of a shabby little store in the middle of nowhere. Ethan grabbed a bottle of water from the cooler and made his way to the register. As he waited in line, he noticed a display of colorful dahlia bouquets near the door. A hand-lettered sign read, "Flowers for sale, $10 a bunch." Ethan was about to look away when he felt a tug on his jeans. He glanced down to see a little girl, no more than 6 years old, gazing up at him with big brown eyes. A basket of flowers dangled from her arm. "Mister, would you like to buy some dahlias?" she asked shyly. "I grew them myself." Despite the blackness of his mood, Ethan felt his heart soften. He crouched down to the girl's eye level. "What's your name, sweetheart?" "Lily," she said with a gap-toothed smile. "Well, Lily, I'd love to buy some of your beautiful flowers. How about I take that whole basket off your hands?" Lily's eyes widened. "Really? Oh, thank you, mister. Mama will be so happy." Ethan pulled out his wallet and handed her a wad of bills. "Tell you what, keep the change and get yourself a little treat too, okay?" "Wow, thanks." Lily impulsively threw her arms around Ethan's neck. Then she grabbed the money and scampered out of the store, her pigtails bouncing. Ethan chuckled and shook his head as he carried the basket of flowers to his car. Maybe this unexpected detour was a sign. He'd tossed the bouquet in Anna and William's smug faces, the ultimate wedding gift from a jilted ex. The plan had a poetic sort of justice to it. With a smirk, Ethan revved the engine and pulled back onto the highway, his spirits lifted by the prospect of revenge. The stately brick church loomed before Ethan as he swung into the parking lot. He cut the engine and sat for a moment, breathing deeply, the basket of dahlias resting in the passenger seat. It was now or never. He reached for the flowers, but as he lifted them, a small scrap of paper fluttered out from between the stems. Ethan retrieved it and unfolded the note, squinting to read the childish scrawl. "Dear Mister," it began, "thank you for buying my flowers. You are very nice. I grow these dahlias myself in our garden. The money you gave me will help buy more medicine for my mama. She is sick and the doctors say she needs special treatment. I pray every night that she will get better soon. Your friend Lily. Ethan felt like he'd been punched in the chest. Lily's innocent words, her simple faith, washed over him in a wave of humility. Here he was, so consumed by anger and self-pity, while this brave little girl faced real hardship with such grace. What right did he have to barge into the church and cause a scene, adding more ugliness to the world? No, Anna and William weren't worth it. Let them have their wedding. He wanted no part of it, or of them. Not anymore. Ethan climbed out of the car, bouquet in hand. He'd leave the flowers, a wordless message to the bride and groom, and then he'd walk away. For good. As he approached the church steps, Ethan noticed a woman lingering near the entrance. She wore a pretty green dress, but her shoulders were slumped, her eyes downcast. She looked as miserable as he felt. On impulse, Ethan stopped beside her. "Excuse me, miss, I have these flowers, but I don't think I'll be needing them after all. I thought maybe you'd like to have them." The woman looked up, startled. Her eyes were red-rimmed from crying. "Oh, That's very kind of you. Are you sure?" "I'm sure," Ethan said firmly. He held out the dahlias. "I hope they brighten your day." A tentative smile touched her lips as she accepted the bouquet. "Thank you. I'm Rachel, by the way." "Ethan." He glanced at the church, then back at the woman. "I was supposed to be a guest, but I've decided I'm not going to the wedding after all. It's a long story." Rachel nodded slowly. "I understand. Sometimes it's best to just walk away." "My thoughts exactly. Well, I should get going. Take care, Rachel." Ethan turned and strode back to his car, without a backward glance. As he slid behind the wheel, he felt lighter than he had in months. To hell with the past. It was time to move forward. The little store looked exactly as it had that morning, but everything felt different as Ethan stepped inside. An older woman glanced up from behind the counter, her brow furrowed in mild surprise. "Can I help you, sir?" "I hope so," Ethan said. "I'm looking for a little girl named Lily who was selling flowers here earlier today. I wanted to check in and see if there's anything else I can do to help her and her mother." The woman's expression softened. "Ah, you must be the nice young man Lily told me about. That was a mighty generous thing you did." Ethan shrugged, oddly self-conscious. "It was the least I could do. Do you know where I might find them?" "They live in a little cottage just outside of town, in a place called Birchwood. Lily's father was a local boy, but he left before she was born and never came back. Broke poor Emma's heart, it did." Birchwood. The name stirred something in the depths of Ethan's memory. An image flashed through his mind. A laughing girl with long blonde hair, spinning in a field of wildflowers. A promise made on a starlit night, sealed with a kiss. No, it couldn't be. Life wasn't some kind of soap opera. Ethan shook off the unsettling feeling and thanked the woman for her help. He returned to his car, the name of the town echoing in his head like a taunt. Birchwood. He'd been there once, years ago. But it couldn't be the same place, could it? There was only one way to find out. With a deep breath, Ethan started the engine and pointed his car toward the past. The road to Birchwood was a winding ribbon of asphalt, lined with towering oaks and maples. Ethan's heart raced faster with each passing mile, his palms slick on the steering wheel. Memories he'd buried long ago began to surface like ghosts. A beautiful blonde girl, laughing as he chased her into the ocean surf. Kissing her breathless beneath a sky ablaze with 4th of July fireworks. Making love in the back of his old pickup truck, their bodies tangled together like roots. Emma. Her name was Emma. Ethan squeezed his eyes shut for a moment, the memories hitting him like a punch to the chest. He'd met her 7 years ago, during a summer visit to his grandparents' farm in Birchwood. She was visiting her aunt next door, and it was love at first sight. For 2 magical months, they were inseparable. Ethan had never believed in soulmates until he met Emma. She made him feel alive in a way he never had before. On their last night together, he'd promised her forever beneath a canopy of stars. And then he'd left for college in the city, swearing he'd come back for her. But he never did. Life got in the way. He met Anna, got swept up in a new relationship, and he let himself forget about the girl he'd left behind. Until now. The cottage appeared like a mirage on the side of the road. Ethan pulled to a stop, his heart hammering against his ribs. This was it. The place where he'd made a promise to Emma all those years ago. A promise he'd failed to keep. Steeling himself, Ethan walked up the cracked sidewalk and knocked on the weathered front door. A moment later, it creaked open to reveal a thin, pale woman, her blonde hair now streaked with gray. But there was no mistaking those blue eyes, as deep and changeable as the sea. "Emma," he whispered. "Ethan," she breathed. "I always knew you'd come back." They stared at each other for a long moment, a lifetime of unspoken words hanging in the air between them. Then Emma stepped back, silently inviting him inside. Ethan followed her into the tiny living room, his heart aching at how small and worn everything looked. Was this really where she'd spent the last 7 years? Raising their daughter alone, fighting off illness and poverty? "I suppose you've figured it out by now," Emma said quietly, sinking onto the threadbare couch. "Lily is your daughter, Ethan." He swallowed hard, struggling for words. I had no idea. My God, Emma, if I'd known." She held up a hand. "I don't blame you. I always meant to tell you, but I didn't want to trap you. And then the years went by, and you never came back." She trailed off, her eyes filling with tears. Ethan crossed the room in 2 strides and knelt before her, taking her hands in his. "I'm so sorry, Emma. I'm sorry for leaving, for not being there when you needed me. I was young and stupid, and I thought I had all the time in the world." His voice cracked. "I never stopped loving you. Never. You have to believe that." Emma touched his cheek, a sad smile curving her lips. "I do believe it, but it doesn't change the reality of our situation. I'm dying, Ethan. The doctors say I have a few months left at most." Ethan's eyes burned with tears. "No, I can't lose you. Not when I've just found you again." She squeezed his hands. "You won't lose me. I'll always be with you, watching over you and Lily. But you have to promise me something." "Anything," Ethan vowed. "Promise me you'll take care of our daughter, that you'll give her the life I couldn't. I don't want her ending up in foster care or with strangers. She needs her father." Ethan gathered Emma into his arms, holding her as tightly as he dared. "I promise," he whispered fiercely. "I'll love her and protect her with everything I have, just like I should have done for you." Over the next few weeks, Ethan threw himself into taking care of Emma and Lily. He moved them out of the cottage and into his comfortable suburban home, determined to give them everything they'd been missing. Lily blossomed like one of her dahlias, thrilled to have a daddy of her very own. Ethan enrolled her in the best private school in town, delighting in her quick mind and sunny nature. And Emma, though frail, seemed to gain a new lease on life. With Ethan's love and support and access to top-notch medical care, she defied the doctor's dire predictions. Weeks stretched into months, and the little family fell into a happy rhythm. But the shadow of Emma's illness was never far away. As summer faded into fall, her health began to decline once more. Ethan rarely left her side, treasuring every moment they had left. One crisp October evening, Emma and Ethan sat together on the back porch, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and gold. Lily was playing in the yard, her laughter floating on the breeze like music. Emma leaned her head on Ethan's shoulder with a contented sigh. "Do you remember our last night together, all those years ago?" she murmured. "When we sat under the stars and dreamed about the future?" "I remember," Ethan said softly. "I made you a lot of promises that night. Promises I didn't keep." She turned to look at him, her eyes bright with unshed tears. "You're keeping them now. That's all that matters." "I love you, Emma. I never stopped. Not for a single day." "I know." She touched his face, her skin soft as flower petals. "And I love you. You've given me the most incredible gift, Ethan. You've given me peace. I know that when I'm gone, you and Lily will have each other. Our little girl will grow up knowing how deeply she is loved." Ethan blinked back tears. "We'll make sure of it, every single day." Emma passed away on a moonlit night in early November, slipping away peacefully in her sleep with Ethan by her side. Though devastated by the loss, Ethan and Lily drew strength from one another. They developed a nightly ritual of sitting on the back porch, gazing up at the stars, and imagining that Emma was the brightest one, smiling down on them. 2 years after Emma's death, Anna showed up on Ethan's doorstep. Her marriage to William had crumbled, and she wanted a second chance with Ethan. He invited her in, but not into his heart. As they sat in the living room, Ethan knew with absolute certainty that his heart belonged to Emma, now and forever. "I'll always care about you, Anna," he said gently. "But too much has happened for us to go back. I'm not the same man I was, and you're not the same woman." Anna nodded, tears glinting in her eyes. "I know. I just had to see you, to apologize for the way things ended with us, and to let you know that I'm happy for you, Ethan. You have a beautiful family." Ethan smiled and glanced over at a framed photo of himself, Emma and Lily, taken during their first Christmas together. "I do," he agreed softly. "A family I never would have found if I hadn't lost you. In a strange way, I'm grateful for what happened. It led me to where I was always meant to be." After Anna left, Ethan wandered out to the back porch. The air was crisp with the promise of winter, the stars glittering like diamonds in the velvet sky. "Well, Em," he whispered, his breath misting in the night air. "We made it. Lily's thriving, and I'm doing my best to keep my promise to you. We miss you like crazy, but we know you're always with us." A sudden breeze ruffled Ethan's hair, carrying the sweet scent of dahlias. He closed his eyes, feeling Emma's presence wash over him like a warm embrace. Somewhere in the house, Lily called out for him. "Daddy, come read me a bedtime story." Ethan smiled. "Be right there, sweet pea," he called back. He turned his face to the sky one last time, his heart full of bittersweet joy. "Until tomorrow night, my love," he murmured. Then he went inside to his daughter, the greatest gift Emma had given him, and closed the door gently behind him. 10 years later, on a warm June afternoon, Ethan stood at the back of a little church in Birchwood. Beside him, 18-year-old Lily glowed in a simple white gown, a bouquet of dahlias clutched in her hands. "I wish your mom could see you now," Ethan whispered, his eyes misty. "You look so beautiful, Lil, just like her." Lily reached up to straighten his tie, her fingers lingering on the worn fabric. "She is here, Dad. Can't you feel her?" Ethan smiled through his tears. "Yeah, I can feel her." The wedding march began to play, and Lily looped her arm through Ethan's. "Ready to give me away, Dad?" "No," Ethan admitted with a rueful chuckle. "But I've got to let you go sometime. And I know Justin's a good man. He'll take care of you the way I promised to take care of your mom." Lily hugged him fiercely, mindful of her dress. "I'll always be your little girl, Dad, no matter what. And Mom will always be with us, watching over our family." Ethan nodded, not trusting himself to speak. Together they started down the aisle toward Lily's beaming groom and the future that awaited them all. And in the gentle breeze that wafted through the church, Ethan could have sworn he caught the scent of dahlias, could almost hear Emma's joyful laughter echoing in the rafters. Their story had come full circle, from heartbreak to healing, from loss to love everlasting. And Ethan knew, with every fiber of his being, that the unexpected wedding gift he'd received so long ago had been the greatest blessing of his life.